I'm a pretty firm believer that if you want to see change in the world, if you want to see change in the world around you, you have to be that change. You can't talk about it. You can't complain about it. You can't rant about it. Basically, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. I've never seen such an amazing example as with Lamb of God's lead singer, Randy Blythe. Now, it's kind of story time here, so bear with me. At one point in time, before Randy started singing for the band Lamb of God, he was just a young teenager, mad at the world. He came from a punk and grunge background, anti-authority, just mad at the way things were. He had said in podcasts that he was so angry at the world. So much of his angst and so much of his problems just came for the fact that he could not get over how angry he was with the world. Like, why couldn't people just act ethically? Why couldn't people just be good? Why couldn't people do the right thing? Why couldn't people just act as decent, ethical, moral human beings? And for the longest time, he could not get over that. That was the source of so much of his angst and his problems, which led to his substance abuse. Now, fast track that a couple decades later, his band Lamb of God is playing in the Czech Republic, and the venue was awful. The security was bad. The whole concert, people were coming on stage. He's constantly bumping up people, bumping into him. There was a couple situations to where he actually had to push people off of the stage because they kept coming up and kept bumping into him and messing up the show. They leave, concert's done. They don't come back to the Czech Republic for 2 years. 2 years later, Lamb of God's coming back to the Czech Republic to do a show. At the airport, they are met with Czech, SWAT, and they're all arrested. They have no idea why they're being arrested. Turns out that one of the people that Randy pushed off the stage ended up hitting their head when they hit the ground, and they ended up dying. And they've been waiting for him to come back, and they were going to charge him with the person's murder. The government really wanted to hold him accountable and make him responsible and send him to prison for that murder. They ended up setting a very high bail. Randy paid the bail, and then after he paid the bail, they denied it and they doubled it. So he ended up spending, weeks in a Czech prison, and eventually he was able to post a bail and leave the Czech Republic. Now, this is where it gets awesome. He could just leave the Czech Republic and never come back. As long as he just never came back to the Czech Republic, the U.S. would never the U.S. would never hold him accountable. They would never take him to the Czech Republic to be responsible for his crimes or the crimes he was being committed of. Dude could have just left it alone. But since his moral compass was so strong, and he, in his heart, believed doing the right thing, being a moral, ethical human being, he went back to the Czech Republic to stand trial, knowing full well that he could do 5 to 10 years in a Czech prison. There was no guarantees that he was going to win the case. It was very plausible that he would actually lose the case and spend 5 to 10 years in a Czech prison. But in his heart, the change he wanted to see in the world, he just wished people would do the right, ethical, moral thing. And that's what he did. And he actually ended up beating the case. Not anything short of, the determination of the Czech authorities to really stick the case to him. But at the end of the day, he went back and faced the music. He knew that he did not intentionally kill this person. He knew that he was not guilty of what he was being committed of, and he took a huge gamble. But to stand up for what he believed in, he was the change he wanted to see in the world. And I thought that was so amazing to see that play out in real life, to where you're someone on one hand who is always complaining, ranting and raving, always angry about the fact that there's these things in the world that need to improve, and then being faced with the opportunity to be in a situation to where you could actually make a difference, but at the expense of your own freedom or health or comfort. And he did it. and he beat the case because he was innocent. He ended up reconciling with the family of the kid who was who ended up dying at his show, and he beat the case and then went back to his career. So I just thought that was, if you're still listening at this point, this is just such an amazing example of be the change you want to see in the world. Don't think that the buck stops at I shared a post on social media, I made a rant about how I don't like the way things work, this and that. Don't think that that's where the buck stops and that that's actually doing your job. If you really want to see change, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. You have to actually go out and influence that change, be that change, make steps to actually get that injustice stopped. To get whatever you want to see in the world changed, you have to go out and be that change. So yes, it does help to spread awareness, but stopping the buck at spreading awareness isn't really how change gets done. It brings awareness to it. It does just that. Just what it says. It brings awareness, but it doesn't bring change. Awareness is kind of the stepping stone to change, but you can't stop there. And you can't just assume that somebody's going to take the baton from you and actually be an agent of change. So I just thought that was cool. Lamb of God wrote a song about it called 512, about his time in a Czech prison, and I believe Randy also has a book out that talks about that whole process. Yeah, I just thought that was really cool.